Susan, it's all yours. All right. Are we ready? He said not to start without him, so I thought I'd go ahead. Huh? Well, he'd have to give it up.
Well, the deputy mayor could open it.
We could surprise him, right?
Sure. Should we make a motion?
All right, welcome to the special meeting of the May 5th, 2015 City Council. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Mr. William Cho, would you please help lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you and welcome. It's a very special meeting of the City Council to determine and help us determine our preferred alternative for the alignment for sound transit. And obviously, we're the expression of the public will, and we want to make sure that we hear as much as we can from the public. So there's going to be not just today, but we actually did have a committee meeting on the 28th. Last week, and Chairman Duclos' committee. Chairman Duclos, how did that committee meeting go?
Very well. We didn't, there was nothing really outstanding. People just were positive.
Very good. Okay. And so what we wanted to do, and speaking with our Public Works Director, Marwan Salloum, and members of the council and our Deputy Mayor, we have set up not only today's hearing, but we're, in regard to the resolution, the proposed resolution to transmit during the public process or the commenting period, we wanted to set up this hearing. Sound Transit has another hearing tomorrow, I believe at 11 a.m. tomorrow at the Community Center and here in Federal Way. And then there's also the Federal Way Chamber of Commerce on May 12th at 11 a.m., I believe over at the Chamber headquarters. So there's going to be a number of opportunities. And I want to say this, just front load it, that we really want to hear from the public. Anybody watching this on TV, I had talked to our IT people and our city clerk to make sure that today's meeting is televised. And we want to hear from you in regard to 99 alignment versus an I-5 alignment. I think with that, we'll go ahead and get started under our business here, under sound transit alignment and possible station locations. First, we're going to have an introduction from Marwan Salloum, our Public Works Director. Then a sound transit representative, Cathal, who we've heard from several times, is present to give a presentation. Then we also have a staff presentation, Rick Perez, Senior Traffic Engineer, citizen comment, and then council discussion. So with that, Marwan, please proceed.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and member of the council. For the record, my name is Marwan Salloum, Public Works Director for the city. For tonight's study session is mainly to help the council identify and make a recommendation for the preferred alignment for the light rail and station for the Federal Way link extension. Cathal from Sound Transit will be given a quick presentation identifying the alternatives and the timeline for the project, followed by Rick Perez, which he will be presenting to you the mayor recommendation as identified in the draft resolution that went before the FEDRA committee on April 28th. And a final resolution incorporating all of the council preferred alternative will be presented to the council on May 18th for an action. With that, I will introduce Cathal for his presentation. Thank you.
Welcome, Cathal.
Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor, members of the council. There's really two parts to this presentation. The first is just to show you a video simulation. I'm aware that several council members have already been on tours and have seen this presentation, but I thought it's a good way, especially since a lot of the public may not have seen this, to get oriented with the project kind of rapidly. So this simulation is narrated. It goes on for a few minutes, and then I'll present a PowerPoint immediately after that.
Council, is that okay? Okay.
Welcome to a visualization of the Federal Way Link extension alternatives. Sound Transit wants your input on these alternatives to extend light rail from the future Angle Lake Station at South 200th Street in SeaTac to the Federal Way Transit Center. Current funding extends light rail to Kent Des Moines by 2023 and develops a shovel-ready plan for extending light rail to South 272nd Street and the Federal Way Transit Center when additional funding is secured. Several potential alternatives have been defined and evaluated since the project kicked off in 2012. After 2 years of study and a lot of public input, 4 alternatives are presented in the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or Draft EIS. The SR99 alternative would generally be located in the median of SR99. It includes station and alignment options. The I-5 alternative would be located along the west side of I-5. It also includes station and alignment options. The SR99 to I-5 alternative would start on SR99, then transition over to I-5 in the Kent Des Moines area. The I-5 to SR99 alternative would start on I-5, then transition over to SR99 in the Kent Des Moines area. Let's look in more detail at all the alternatives, starting with the SR99 alternative. The SR99 alternative would extend south from the Angle Lake Station on an elevated guideway, mostly in the median of SR99. A potential additional station near 216th Street on the border of SeaTac and Des Moines has 2 possible station locations. The South 216th West Station option would be in a trench on the west side of SR99 and cross under 216th Street. The South 216th East Station option would be elevated on the east side of SR99, just south of 216th Street. The elevated guideway would continue in the median of SR99 to the Kent Des Moines station area. In the Kent Des Moines area, the Kent Des Moines SR99 West station would be elevated on the west side of SR99 near Highline College. In addition to the Kent Des Moines SR99 West station, there are 3 station options in the Kent Des Moines area. The first is the Kent Des Moines Highline College campus station option, where the station would be in a trench in the east parking lot of Highline College. The second station option, the Kent Des Moines SR99 median station option, would be elevated in the median of SR99. The third station option is the Kent Des Moines SR99 East station option, which would be elevated on the east side of SR99. South of the Kent Des Moines Station area, the elevated guideway would continue in the median of SR 99 toward Federal Way. The SR 99 alternative includes a potential additional station near 260th Street with 2 station location options. The South 260th West Station would be an elevated station on the west side of SR 99 to the north of 260th. The South 260th East Station option would be elevated on the east side of SR 99 over 260th Street. The SR 99 alternative would continue as an elevated structure in the median of SR 99 to the 272nd Street area. The South 272nd Street Redondo Station would be elevated on the east side of SR 99 at the existing Redondo Heights Park and Ride lot. The South 272nd Street Redondo Trench Station option is a second station option at the Redondo Park and Ride lot. The station would be in a trench that would allow the guideway to cross under South 272nd Street. This option would also allow the guideway to cross under SR 99 as it continues south. South of the 272nd Street station options, the alignment would continue as an elevated structure in the median of SR 99 or could be located to the west of SR 99 using an existing utility corridor. This option would continue south, parallel to the SR 99 alternative, to about 304th Street, where it would return to the median of SR 99. The elevated guideway would continue in the median of SR 99 and then turn east to the Federal Way Transit Center. This elevated terminus station would be located immediately south of the existing transit center. Another terminus option, the Federal Way SR 99 station option, would be an elevated station west of the existing transit center. Now let's look closer at the I-5 alternative. The I-5 alternative would also extend south from the Angle Lake station. It would cross over SR 99 on an elevated structure and continue along the south side of the future alignment of SR 509 until reaching I-5. The alignment would then turn south and generally follows the west side of I-5 to the Kent Des Moines station area. The Kent Des Moines I-5 station would be elevated next to I-5, about 1/4 mile east of Highline College. In addition to the Kent Des Moines I-5 station, there are 2 station options in the Kent Des Moines area. The Kent Des Moines at-grade station option would be along I-5, immediately south of 240th Street. This station option would be about 1/4 mile east of Highline College. The second station option in this area, the Kent Des Moines SR 99 East station option, would be an elevated station on the east side of SR 99 and closer to Highline College. From the Kent Des Moines station area, the alignment would continue south along the west side of I-5 and would cross the edge of the Midway landfill. The landfill median alignment option would avoid crossing the Midway landfill by crossing to the median of I-5 for about a half mile. The South 272nd Star Lake station would be in a trench at the Star Lake Park and Ride lot, which would allow the guideway to travel under 272nd Street at this location. Past 272nd Street, the alignment would continue south along the west side of I-5. The alignment would be elevated over Military Road and South 288th Street. The alignment would turn west, going under the 317th Street roundabout, and terminate at an elevated Federal Way Transit Center station immediately south of the existing Federal Way Transit Center. There are 2 I-5 Federal Way station options. The first, the Federal Way I-5 station option, would be in a trench just south of 317th Street and east of the existing transit center. The Federal Way South 320th Park and Ride Station option would also be in a trench in the existing park and ride lot. Finally, here are the two alternatives that mix together elements of the SR 99 and I-5 alternatives. The SR 99 to I-5 alternative would be similar to the SR 99 alignment alternative north of the Kent-Des Moines Road. This alternative would begin to transition east to I-5 and would include the Kent-Des Moines 30th Avenue East Station option, an elevated station east of 30th Avenue. South of Kent-Des Moines, the alignment would complete the transition to I-5 and would continue south, similar to the I-5 alternative. The I-5 to SR 99 alternative would be similar to the I-5 alternative north of the Kent-Des Moines Road. This alternative would begin to transition west to SR 99 and would include the elevated Kent-Des Moines 30th Avenue West station on the west side of 30th Avenue. South of Kent-Des Moines, the alignment would complete the transition to SR 99 and would continue south, similar to the SR 99 alternative. Thank you for watching this visualization of the alternatives for the Federal Way Link extension. To stay informed about the project, visit soundtransit.org/FW extension.
So now I'll switch gears and talk a little bit about the station options in the Federal Way Transit Center area. I don't plan to go through all of the information in the draft EIS. You've already seen it before. We presented here back in March, presented here in April. We presented here about 8 times, I think, so far. But the information, just for people who are tuning in, is available on our website. And this booklet is a nice summary booklet, which we have here tonight. It's also available on our website, in addition to the full draft EIS. If you are interested in getting into that information and you weren't able to be at the March 17th council briefing. But briefly, I'll just show 1 or 2 slides that you have seen before many times. And this one is just the timeline, explaining basically, essentially, that we've been working on this now for about 2.5, 3 years. We've had a lot of public comments, a lot of presentations to councils and so on. And we're at the point now, a very important point, which is the draft EIS comment period, and that comment period extends until May 26th. So I just want to make that very clear to people who are tuning in, that it's very important to get your comments. If you haven't been involved in the project up to now, that's fine. No decisions have been made, but decisions will be made very shortly. And if you want to be involved in those decisions, then providing your comment to Sound Transit by May 26th is crucial. The other slide is just an overview of the project area. You've seen this many times before, but what I want to point out right now, and this graphic demonstrates it, is that the ST2 plan included construction down to 272nd, and right now we think we've got the funding capacity to get to the Kent-Des Moines station area by 2023. But we are, and this is important to understand, we are doing the environmental work and making that choice about alignment and station locations all the way down to the Federal Way Transit Center, even though we don't necessarily have funding to construct that today. The goal is that if we get through that environmental process, then we're in a better position to get that funding. So those are 2 slides that you've seen many times. I just wanted to point those out again for those who are perhaps tuning into the project for the first time. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the station options in Federal Way. The first graphic here is a look at the SR 99 alternative with a station at the Federal Way Transit Center. And I just want to orient you to this graphic. Essentially, all of these areas I'm going to show you are looking from the same perspective, looking north. SR 99 is on the left side here, and I-5 is on the right. Just go back a slide. The Federal Way Transit Center is here, roughly in the middle, and the Commons is to the south here, and you have South 320th going through the middle of the graphic. So if you can get oriented to this graphic, then all the rest of them will make a lot more sense. What this is showing is the alignment of the SR 99 alternative coming down SR 99 and then swinging in east towards the transit center. And this blue rectangle here is the station location, which is immediately south of the existing transit center. All of this area in red is showing areas that would be affected, the footprint of the project. During construction, a lot of these areas would be affected. And then those things that are highlighted in orange are buildings that would likely be displaced by this alternative, at least as we understand it right now. The design will evolve, but it seems to us right now that these buildings here would be affected with an SR99 alternative. So everything you see orange would likely be displaced. And that includes a number of retail, mostly dining businesses that would be along SR99 on the approach. The Comfort Inn, the shopping centre just to the west of the transit centre, and the Starplex Cinema, as well as the shopping centre immediately south of the transit centre. All those buildings would likely be displaced by this alternative. In terms of the key measures with this alternative, you can see there on the left the project cost if you are on a 99 alternative from Angle Lake would be overall about $1.77 billion. In this Federal Way station area, just in that station area that you see on this aerial, there would be no residential displacements, but there would be 26 business displacements in that area. And then land with TOD potential, we've talked about this a lot of times before, but with this particular station option in Federal Way, you would have 43 acres of potentially redevelopable land in the quarter mile around the station circle, and you can start to see the comparison between different station options. Also on the left, or the right here rather, you can see that this would be very close to the transit centre, just a 200-foot walk. It'd also be very close to the future development north of the transit centre, the Performing Arts Centre, and the development area up there that's been identified in the town square area. It also has good access to the direct access ramp at 317, so that's very good for buses accessing the transit centre. They can quickly use that direct access ramp to integrate transit service with a station at this location. In terms of the future alignment from this station location further south, we'd be talking about, if you're going along I-5, the red dashed line shown on this graphic. If the alignment were to transition over to SR99, you'd be swinging around and behind the Commons to get back on SR99. Now obviously we don't know what the alignment will be. That's the part of it, the subject of a separate environmental document if that were to be determined. But you can imagine if the station were in this configuration at the transit centre, then these are the likely paths that it would take moving forward from here to Tacoma. Another station option which you saw described in the simulation is the SR99 alternative, what we call the Federal Way SR99 station option. It's located west of the transit centre, and you can see here again, these are the parcels shown in that kind of reddish colour that would be affected by this particular alternative, and then those buildings that are in the orange colour would be displaced. They include the Top Food building, which is currently vacant. The Clarion Hotel would be affected, and a couple of retail dining businesses in that area as well would be affected, as well as the shopping centre immediately south of that area, which includes, if you're familiar with that area, the Target, DSW Shoes. A few businesses are within that shopping centre. Overall, this is slightly cheaper, $1.7 billion, no residential displacements, but 24 business displacements, and land with TOD potential for this station option would be 54 acres. It is a further walk to the transit centre. You're talking about 1,400 feet of walk distance, so it's not as convenient in terms of access to the transit centre, but it is fairly close to the future Performing Arts Centre and development in that area, and it would be fairly much in line with the direct access ramp to 317, so it would be a pretty good station in that case. In terms of future alignment south to Tacoma, you could transition either on the green line, the green dash line back to SR99, or on the red dash line down to I-5. If you were coming from I-5 and you wanted a station at the Federal Way Transit Centre, you can see here the displacements. You'd be impacting the Starplex Cinema, the shopping centre immediately south of the transit centre, and you'd also affect one of those retail buildings immediately to the west of the transit centre, just on the south side of 317 in that area. This is a lot cheaper in terms of overall cost, about $1.42 billion. Just one residential displacement in the station area, 13 business displacements, and the land with TOD potential number will be 40 acres. You're obviously, again, only 200 feet from the existing transit centre. That's just about as close as you can possibly be. Close to the future Performing Arts Centre and developments, and good access from the direct access ramp. The alignment further south to Tacoma could go one of two ways, either to 99 in green, or swing around the back of the Commons over to I-5 if you were to make that transition. If you had the station near I-5, and this would be in the Gateway Centre area, so east of the existing transit centre, you'd be affecting obviously those businesses that are currently in the Gateway Centre, including the McDonald's, the shopping centre in that area, which includes a number of businesses and retail buildings in that area. The overall cost of this alternative, it's about $1.38 billion. It's cheaper. It has 1 residential displacement, 15 business displacements, but the land with TOD potential number, 18 acres. That's one of the lowest, I think, station option in the downtown area. It is also 1,400-foot walk to the existing transit centre, but it is, very accessible, obviously, by the direct access ramp at 317th Street. The alignment further south to Tacoma, you could go down 23rd Avenue, then either swing east or west along the back of the Commons over to 99, or swing east down to I-5. The fifth and final of the draft EIS station options is at 320th. You can see it here just north of Belmar Mobile Home Park. It would cost about $1.54 billion. About 20 residential displacements. Those would be mobile home parks just south of the station area, mobile home buildings rather, just south of the station area. No business displacements, and the land with TOD potential, this is within the quarter-mile acre of the station area, would be about 29 acres. It is obviously the furthest alternative from the existing transit centre. That would be about a 3,000-foot walk, so you're talking over half a mile, and it is also quite far from the existing direct access ramp. I want to introduce, and also the alignments to 99 and I-5, as you can see, would be shown at the bottom of this graphic. I want to talk about one alternative that we have been talking about internally. We met with your staff to discuss this some time ago. We've also talked about it with the Chamber. It came up in discussions in some of the tours that we've had. And this is basically a slight modification of the Federal Way Transit Centre station location from I-5. This is not covered in the draft EIS. This was not an idea that emerged during the public scoping period before the draft EIS. This is an idea that has kind of come about in the last few weeks, really, as we've been doing these tours and briefings and so on, as people have been reacting to what they see in the draft EIS. And I would just want to point this out because there are options that are in the draft EIS which were studied, but part of the purpose of the comment period is to get your reaction to those options, and if you see better options than what you see in the draft EIS, then that's the sort of input that we would like to get during this comment period, and potentially what we move forward with would be an option that's different than what was in the draft EIS. So I wanted to point this out as a very good example based on input that we received, which would essentially, instead of putting the station right in an east-west configuration immediately south of the transit centre, would orient it in a more north-south configuration. It'd be essentially on in the same area, if you like, as the I-5 Federal Way Transit Centre option, but just in a different configuration. In terms of costs and so on, like I said, it wasn't covered in the draft EIS, so we haven't really analysed it. But you can imagine that the costs and impacts will be very similar to the I-5 alternative that's described in the draft EIS, because it is the same alignment and it's impacting much the same footprint in the area of the station area. In terms of the alignment further south to Tacoma, you would go down 23rd Avenue and then you could very easily transition over to I-5, and you could also, if necessary, swing over to 99 by swinging behind the Commons. So it allows you the flexibility to go in either direction because it's oriented in this north-south configuration. This is a summary page, so rather than swing back and forth between the pages, all of it is summarized on this page. It includes the 5 options that are covered in the draft EIS, all of the measures that I just described, and it also has a column there for that 6th option that has emerged in recent weeks. I'll just close my comments by pointing out or reminding people once again that we do have public meetings this week, tomorrow night, at the Federal Way Community Centre, starting at 4 o'clock until 7 o'clock. The actual public hearing portion starts at 5:30, but you can come anytime during that 4 to 7 time slot. If tomorrow night doesn't work for you, you can also come to another public open house that we have on Thursday night at Highline College in the Student Union building, once again from 4 to 7 o'clock. There will be lots of Sound Transit staff there if you want to dig into the details on any given alternative or any station option. There'll be everybody there who's been involved in developing the work, and you can get all of your questions answered. And if neither of those alternatives are convenient for you, you can also get the full draft EIS document, the video you saw today, and various other things on our website, which is federalwaylink.org, We learned today that we've had over 10,000 hits on that website, which is a huge number. So it's been very successful in getting the word out, and it's been a very successful way of getting comments from the public. So if you can't make it to an open house, you can log on there and you can submit your comments there as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Council, any questions for Mr. Ridge? Councilmember Moore?
Thank you so much. Obviously, except for plan number 5 or 6, there's going to be businesses that are displaced. And I know that Chelsea and yourself, we went over what would happen to houses if they're displaced. What's the process to businesses when they're being impacted?
It's a very similar process. We help businesses. First of all, we assess the value of their property. We make them a fair market value offer for their property. And we also have to help them find suitable replacement property, and that can be more challenging in terms of businesses. Businesses have specific needs. We help pay their relocation expenses. In certain cases, we help them reconfigure whatever the new property is to meet their needs. So there's a lot of steps that we go through in helping them relocate. It's similar to the residential, but it's actually somewhat more. We help reestablishment costs in terms of developing their marketing materials, things like that have changed because of their new location.
Councilmember Duclos?
I'd like to follow up on that and get a little more specific. Belmore Park, especially I think if it's option 2, would be impacted greatly. And that's a little bit more difficult, I think, because those people own those homes.
Yes,
So-
with mobile home parks, there's both situations. There's people that own their homes, and then there's people who rent them.
Most of them, I think, in Belmore own
Yeah.
theirs.
So it's the rules apply to them as well. We have to find suitable replacement property that's equivalent and decent and safe, equivalent to the property they're in. And if we can't, we've got to find them something better that's acceptable. So it's a very similar process. If we can relocate the actual mobile home building itself, that's an option, but in many cases that's not possible to do.
I think that would be pretty difficult. They're,
Yeah,
they're
and
few and far between.
Depends on the cases.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're obliged by federal law to help relocate them to suitable replacement property.
Okay, Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. On the modified version, number 6, it looks like, at least if I can look at the screened down images, it looks like the proposed continuation after that, it goes just, it would be probably east of the building, the target building, and so it'd go through the parking lot but not affect the building, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other? Councilmember Sapadowson.
So when we're talking about all this, it's beyond 2023, right?
Yes.
So the estimated cost, is that in today's dollars, or are we?
Yes. Yes.
So that could change, right?
Yes, depending on how it's today's dollars. So yes, if the project is further out there, there'll be escalation costs, and obviously the further out there, the higher the cost will get. But all of these are compared in terms of today's dollars to provide an apples-to-apples comparison.
Okay. And do you know how soon we can get the estimation for number 6, proposal number 6?
Well, that would be something, if it was, proposed as a preferred alternative, that's something that we would look at in the next phase of project developments. So it'd be moving forward over the next year, we'd be analyzing this alternative.
Thank you.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much. Could you just remind me again how many stops we're looking at with a 99 route versus I-5?
Well, with either route, there's 3 basic station locations at Kent, Des Moines, 272nd, and the Federal Way Transit Center area. And those are the station locations that have been identified in previous planning and Sound Transit's long-range plan and ST2 plan and so on. There's also the possibility of adding additional stations at 216th and 260th. However, they have not been included in any previous plan. They're not voter approved. So there would be potential additional stations that we would environmentally approve, perhaps, if that was the board's choice. And then they could, if funding were to be found, be added in the future. So you have the possibility on SR 99 of having more than 3 stations, 4 or 5 stations, potentially.
And on I-5?
I-5, just 3 stations.
Just 3 stations?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Duclos.
Just a question. What is the anticipated date that it would go down to Federal Way and maybe even into Pierce County?
There's no date right now in terms of when that would happen. It really depends on when funding were to be available. And
How much do you have funding for now?
we have funding to get as far as Kent Des Moines by
Kent Des Moines.
2023.
By 2023?
Yes, there's, as you've heard, I think in previous presentations, a ballot measure being considered right now, or the idea of going for a ballot measure perhaps next year, which would potentially provide funding to advance beyond Kent Des Moines, but that's all subject to voter approval.
I've asked this question before and never gotten an answer. Are our people paying for all of these stations?
Are
the people in Federal Way, the taxpayers in Federal Way, paying for
yes,
for these stations?
the infrastructure that's
Yeah.
in the South King sub-area is paid for by taxpayers in the South King sub-area. Yes.
In the entire South King?
Sub-area, not just
Sub-
Federal Way, all of the
I
South
know,
King
all of
sub-area.
it, but
Yeah.
we're included in that. And will the others continue to pay when it starts coming down here?
Well, that's the question for a
Yeah.
future ballot measure.
That's something that's very important to the people here, and I think we need to be aware of.
Councilmember Honda, then Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. So when will the decision be made if this is on the ballot in 2016? And if it is on the ballot and it fails, then will it be placed on the ballot again in the future?
Do you want to talk about it?
Hi, good evening. Chelsea Levy with Sound Transit Government Relations. So let me just repeat your question to make sure that I understand it. But before I do, let me give you a little bit of more context. So I think I was here about a month ago and we talked about Sound Transit's future planning work. The board is interested in potentially going to the ballot with an ST3 package as soon as November 2016, but they haven't said that we will go. Sound Transit staff right now is doing multiple different planning processes to prepare the board with enough information to be able to make a decision about whether or not to pursue a ballot measure as soon as November 2016. So that said, if we go to the ballot in 2016, so now this is all purely hypothetical. If we go to the ballot in 2016 and that ballot measure for whatever reason fails, I think that there would need to be an assessment taken of why it failed and what the appropriate timing to put a package back on. There's just no way to know at this point.
Deputy Mayor Burbidge.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment that, acknowledge that ST2 actually voted to take Link to 272nd, but the funding has been an issue in terms of getting there sooner, as soon as, we would have liked. But so the new ballot issue, assuming there is one, would begin with authority to go beyond 272nd. Isn't that correct then?
Presumably, yes, but we won't know until the board takes action, until there's a project list and the board identifies projects to move forward to a ballot measure.
Right.
But presumably, I think it's a fair assumption at this point that that our board is very interested in funding at least a Federal Way as part of an ST3 measure, if not further, to Tacoma.
Right, but I, just as a follow-up too, because there is that authority to build as far as 272nd, voter approval, if there were, with a growing economy, funding available to accomplish that, that's something that could happen without an additional vote.
That's true. There's already voter approval
Right.
to build to 272nd. So
Thank
you're
you.
right. It's a matter of funding. Just for those at home, just to recap what happened, Sound Transit, like all of the cities really throughout the country, businesses, individual households, we were hit very hard by the recession. And because Sound Transit relies so heavily on sales tax revenue to fund these major capital investments, when we went through the Great Recession, our projections for ST2 were impacted.
Right.
And so that's what you were referencing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Moore.
Last question, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm really actually intrigued with what Councilmember Lydia Salfadassin stated, and that's, these are today's prices. Things could change down the road. What's the process, and how's that gonna affect, the process for down the road, and how's that gonna affect us?
Well, this is typical. I mean, with any capital projects, it's typical of your projects too. You develop cost estimates based on today's dollars, but you also have to account for escalation costs. That's something that we factor into our financing assumptions. So when we look in terms of how much funding we need, we also have to account for how much escalation that we will need. So that's all part of the process of coming up with what is that amount of money that you need approved by the voters to be able to fund the projects, and it's based on understanding when those projects would actually be built and factoring in an escalation cost into that. So that's a typical process. But in terms of analyzing alternatives, you know, you want to be able to compare alternatives on an apples-to-apples basis. So you want to have current year dollars to compare all the alternatives so that you can understand how they compare to each other relatively. So that's why we talk about constant level dollars, current year dollars.
All right, great. All right, now it's time. Thank you very much for your presentation. There may be follow-up questions after Rick Perez gives his presentation. Rick?
Thank you and good evening. Let me load up here. And there we go. Hey. Okay, I gotta dig around. Excuse me. Okay. All right, so question is, what's the city's preference for the alignment of link light rail and for station locations? So I'm going to step through some of the different criteria, and this is out of the draft EIS, alternative comparison. So as we heard earlier, the I-5 alignment is definitely the lowest cost. Has roughly half as many land parcels that are affected, 1/4 the business displacements, 1/2 the employee displacements, roughly 1/2 of residences that are impacted by the visual impact of the guideway, and roughly 1/2 the noise impacts. Roughly equivalent ridership and travel times. Compared to the SR 99 alignment, there's about half the revenue impacts to the city just in property tax revenues alone. The SR 99 alignment, depending on which design option was used, could end up reconstructing up to $100 million worth of the completed improvements on Highway 99. And these numbers here in this table are actually dated. They don't include phase 4 of 99 that the city constructed.
So Rick, you mean, you mean by that we've spent $100 million on this corridor on 99?
Between all the cities collectively, we're up to pretty close to 200 million now. Mm-hmm. And so roughly 100 million of it would have to be reconstructed to accommodate an SR 99 alignment. That
we spent in Federal Way?
Well, not just in Federal Way. That's the entire corridor. Our portion of that is about 60 million.
Okay.
60. And that's, phases 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 3, and 4, plus the WashDOT portion that we had annexed.
Okay. All right.
So one thing, I couldn't quite get this in PowerPoint the way I wanted it to, but basically the graphic on the left is the rough alignment of SR 99 alignment, which is very much on top of the A-line, Metro A-line rapid ride. And so a little bit of duplication in terms of transit service there. And the more stations you add on an SR 99 alignment, more bleed over you're going to see between the two. Now, some folks are saying, yeah, but there's more TOD potential on an SR 99 alignment, particularly at Star Lake and Redondo Heights. One of the key things, though, is the TOD analysis in the EIS also talks about what the market potential is for TOD in each of the station locations, and the basis for comparison is places like Belltown and downtown Kirkland and Overlake, and so relatively speaking, we're a bit further down the list in terms of desirability for that type of development. And all the station locations at 272nd, whether on SR 99 or Star Lake, the market potential is pretty low. And so the point here is that probably should not be a major consideration in terms of defining which alignment is superior. And then another issue with SR 99 alignment is there's potentially undevelopable remnant parcels. If you end up taking a building, is there enough land left over on that parcel to really make it feasible to redevelop? And there's some potential for that. So as a result of that, the mayor's recommendation is I-5 alignment. And then we talked quite a bit about station locations. Cahill described that. And if we're going to stay on an I-5 alignment, then proximity to I-5 would be desirable. But also we want proximity to the transit center and the ability to provide good pedestrian connections to adjacent land uses. And so this actually was an earlier graphic that was developed in the earlier scoping, but the idea of a station along 23rd, potentially even straddling 320th, would provide very good connections to the Commons and the Transit Center, and still keep most of Gateway Center intact. So this is the mayor's recommendation for a station location, clearly based on design issues. As this option is explored further, it may slide further north or further south depending on more detailed design. So, but that's the mayor's recommendation for a station location, and happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. Thanks. This is interesting to me, this last diagram that you put up here. If it straddled 320th, could that also be potentially a sky bridge?
That's one of the
Is that
potential
the
options
idea?
that,
Okay.
that again, this is very conceptual, so
Yeah.
When all the lot of details yet to be worked out, but
Okay.
but potentially, yeah, it'd be the city's first sky bridge across 320th.
Okay, that's interesting. And I'm not sure if you would answer this or if Sound Transit would answer. What is the potential impact if we do go 99 on the new Federal Way High School?
Good question.
We would not directly impact the high school. We'd be in the median in that location, so we'd be in proximity to the high school, but it's separated by the street.
Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. On, these aren't numbered, but there's a slide that talks about number of parks impacted. How is Town Square Park impacted by any of these?
Let Cahill address that one.
Okay.
Perhaps I'll just pull up the graphic if it might be easier to show.
And then also is Still Lake potentially impacted at all?
So in the case of, to answer your first question, in the case of the Federal Way SR 99 station option, the station that would be located to the west of the transit center, you can see on this graphic here, this is where Town Square Park is, this particular parcel here. And what we would have to do if the station were here would be create an access road along the south side of the park. It's not the actual recreational part of the park, right? It's the area where cars are parked along the south side of that parking lot. We create this access road, which is shown in red on this graphic, that would affect some parking spaces in the park. That's the only alternative that would directly affect Town Square Park.
And what about Still Lake Park and any of these options?
None of the options affect Steel Lake Park.
Thank you.
Council, any other questions, either of Rick or Cahill? All right. Rick, did you have anything else to add?
No, that completes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, citizen comment. I've got one pink sheet. Mr. William Cho is present. Mr. Cho? And anybody else who would like to comment, please fill out a pink sheet, or even if, for time's sake, if you just want to testify, we can have you fill out the pink sheet when you get done. Mr. Cho.
And good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councilmen and councilwomen. I appreciate the time to be able to speak to you. My name is William Cho. I'm the owner-operator of the McDonald's on 320th that was shown in one of the options. So, of course, I have a very keen interest in this. In fact, this has a huge impact on my livelihood. You know, when I first learned of this back in December, when I did get a letter of potential condemnation, and then I started looking into the various aspects. I did have a meeting with Mayor Farrell, and he is very nice to meet with me a couple times, and I've talked with Sound Transit, with Traylene Myers, and a variety of people. So I understand that in the draft EIS there's multiple options, but I would just like to let Federal Way know that in a couple points. And one is that this location is one of the 5 busiest locations of McDonald's in Western Washington. It employs over 90 people. We're very vibrant, and moreover, that it's not as easy just to replace. I mean, so you heard Cahill's response where Sound Transit would give some monies. Those monies would actually, this property is owned by McDonald's Corporation. I'm the franchisee, so I'm the owner-operator. So I would be displaced. This is an older property made in 1977. So this location has a rent. McDonald's is actually a large real estate company as well as a hamburger company, and they base the rent on when the property was purchased because of the purchase price. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is that if I were displaced and put into another location, the ability to get the profit that I get from this location would be severely diminished. In fact, this location is really irreplaceable. So I just wanted to let all the council members and the mayor know that. The other thing I did want to comment on is that if we do move forward with Mr. Perez's proposal and the mayor's proposal, I would just ask that you look at section 4 of that proposal, where they talk about 23rd Avenue, and that we actually say that we would be on the west side of 23rd Avenue. I mean, obviously, I'm on the east side of 23rd Avenue, but obviously, as everything Mr. Perez says, with the potential of being a Skybridge link and being able to go to the Commons, and it makes sense to be on that particular side. So, and I do appreciate the mayor's alternative proposal. So, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Council, while Mr. Cho is at the podium, before you go, does any council member have a question for Mr. Cho? He's a local business owner. Councilmember Moore?
It's just more of a comment, and obviously between now and May 26th, it's going to be really important that we hear from not just you, but other business people that are going to be impacted. So I really just want to say thank you for taking the time to come here, because that's very insightful for me to learn that and to understand how big of an impact that's going to really make. And I also, additionally, I appreciate hearing the fact that even if Sound Transit was to replace your location, that's not going to make the impact, to what you were making at that spot. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I could just add a little, because I didn't want to necessarily say this, but I do have 7 full-size locations and 1 Walmart location, 3 of which are in Federal Way. But I wanted to say that 75% of my profit is from that store. So you can imagine the other, what happens when you get newer locations. It's incrementally much smaller. So yes.
Very good. Councilmember Honda?
Excuse me. Thank you, and thank you for coming to speak to us tonight. First of all, thank you for employing 90 people in the city of Federal Way. I
Actually,
appreciate that.
And I actually have 450 employees. So I'm
Wow.
actually in the base the 320th location is actually unusual. It's an older store, so it has a full basement. I've converted the whole basement to the office, so that's the headquarter location.
Wow.
So, yes.
How interesting.
Yeah.
My question though is, have you identified another location that you, if you had to, that you could move this store to?
No. And again, I can't even imagine what would happen with the present day real estate prices.
Okay.
That is why you actually see very few McDonald's being built. You know, I had a location that we built in 2012 in Tacoma at Union Street, and that location has yet to make even $1. The real estate is very expensive.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate listening to you.
Thank you, Mr. Cho.
Thank you.
All right. Council, did anybody else have any? All right, Councilmember Maloney.
Thank you. And just to tag on to what Councilmember Honda said, I was actually going to thank you as well for employing so many of our residents. But I did want to ask Sound Transit on the mayor's recommendation. I don't know if this is new to you or not, but is that something that you could also propose to the board, or however you do it?
Absolutely. I mean, your comment is completely your own.
Okay.
So anything you want to propose is totally up to you.
Okay.
As Rick kind of alluded to, this is simply a sketch right now that you
Right.
saw there, and we'd really have to test the viability of it. There's a lot of issues that would need to be determined. Putting a station over a very wide street like that is unusually large span, and there's a lot of other implications that we need to study in general. But the general idea of being in a north-south configuration, that seems quite viable based on what we've done right now. So we need to study it more.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, any other questions, comments? All right, now we've got, obviously the comment period ends on the 26th, is that right? So we've got another council meeting that would be the last council meeting prior to the expiration of the public comment period. That would be our next council meeting on May 19th. So if we're gonna say something, and so I guess we've got the language of the resolution right now. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the language of the resolution while we're in public session and we're meeting as a group? Is there anything? Mr. Cho made comment about a possible amendment to, I think, Section 4 to make sure that it's clear that our recommendation is west of 23rd. I think that's a very good point. Amy Jo, our legal counsel, can you please make sure we incorporate that? Would anybody have any comments now? And then actually I'll just say this while you guys are looking at it. In the meanwhile, either from the public, from the folks here, or the folks watching, we will have this document available online on the website. So if you have particular comments that you wanted to make about any kind of corrections.
I'm just saying, I'm wondering if somebody could quickly stand up here and just state what some of the parts are of the
That's a
draft
great idea.
resolution.
Thank you very much. Amy, can you stand at the podium and kind of walk through the resolution? Or would you want Amy Jo to read it out loud, or just summarize
I
it?
think just summarize it would be fine, but I think the people watching this might want to know what the resolution says.
Thank you very much. You're absolutely right.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Have we heard from any other business owners who've received letters from Sound Transit talking about the impact to their businesses?
That's a good question. Amy Jo, have we, or Marwan?
I'm not aware of any other business owners that have come forward.
I have not either, Mayor.
I know that you sent actually letters to all the property owners on both alignments, so I imagine, can you tell us a little bit about, I think your question was to property business owners or property owners?
Well, both, but have you heard from people? Are they responding to this draft with concern or excitement?
We have been meeting, just like with the McDonald's property owner, we have been meeting with, we have offered to meet with every property owner who's affected. For your information, there's over 1,100 potential property owners that will be affected along our residential business, all sorts of things. Not everybody wants to meet, and in this particular station area, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I could get back to you exactly on who we've met with, face to face. Those meetings have generally been just to explain the alternatives to them, which options would affect them, which options would not affect them, and then explain what the relocation process would be in the event that they are ultimately affected. So that's been the nature of those conversations. They will have an opportunity to comment formally, as I said, at the public hearings tomorrow night and the following night, as well as online or by email. So we don't know what their actual comment is yet, but that's something that we will know after the comment period ends on May 26th.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, just a follow-up to that. I mean, these are all comments for the board, for them to make a decision. But, a thought that kind of occurred to me, just thinking right now, is I think it'd be kind of nice to read that ourselves so that we can also make an informed decision by the 26th.
Yeah, that information is submitted to the Sound Transit Board, so it's not something that'll be available for you before May 26th. It's be presented to the Sound Transit Board after May 26th. So
after we make the decision?
After the comment
So you
period.
won't have it as you won't be able to, unless people come to you directly,
Right.
Or in this type of forum, or if you wanted to come to the hearings tomorrow night
Right.
and hear what people are saying firsthand, those would be your opportunities. And any other forums. The Federal Way Chamber, for example, is having their own forum next week to talk about it. And they're specifically inviting business owners to come to that. So there are other venues where you could kind of get a feel for it, but their letters are, directly to Sound Transit.
It's a good question, a good comment, though. Councilmember Assefa-Dawson.
Yeah, this is a comment. In Seattle, along Martin Luther King Way, along the light rail, housing costs for renters has gone up. So if we were to go down 99 for whatever reason, if that's the preferred choice, what do we do about that? Because there's so many apartments that, along 99, I live in one of them. So that is a big concern to me. So how do we even mitigate that, or what does that mean for people who live there? Because the properties may not be displaced, or people can still live there, but it's going to be more expensive.
It's true. I mean, property values will likely increase. That's been the experience elsewhere, and it's a possibility that rental prices could go up as well, and that's not something that we mitigate. That's actually seen as a benefit in some cases. Some people look at that as a benefit. Property owners and so on look at it as a benefit. So,
Thank you.
All right, Council. Any other? Are there any suggestions in regard to, maybe let me kind of help shape this a bit in regard to, without calling for, actually we're going to do the summary with Amy Jo. So after that gets done.
So the resolution as it's currently drafted starts with some whereas that go through the background, some of which has already been presented by Rick Perez. Just very briefly, it talks a little bit about the process of how we've gotten to where we are, and then it specifically identifies the alternative alignments and the fact that we've looked at the lowest number of parcels that will be affected, the number of businesses that would be displaced, the number the amount of land that would change from developable to not developable, also the impact on city tax revenues. And then we go on to looking at as well as the noise impacts and the ridership. We then go into the costs, the fact that on average, alternative alignments along State Route 99 will cost $400 million more than the alternative alignments along I-5. The fact that the least expensive alternative alignment along State Route 99 is still $280 million more than the most expensive alternative along I-5. It also goes into, again, the business impacts, the fact that we've spent $100 million in improvements along 99 and our improvement of that highway. We also have noted that the fact that it's along 99 may be duplicative to the efforts of the rapid ride that is on that highway currently, and the fact that there is more land with transit-oriented development with regard to where the station locations are. So with all of that background then, the actual recommendations as they currently stand are the preferred alignment based upon the detailed analysis of the alternatives, review of the DEIS and public outreach. The City Council hereby expresses its preference for an I-5 alignment. Section 3. It talks about the station location near Highline Community College. The way that it's drafted now, we would request that the station location be east of Highway 99, but that the exact location and the details of that location be discussed among the regional partners that are affected by that station location, which would include the City of Des Moines, the City of Kent, and Highline Community College. With regard to the station location at City Center, as it reads now, the City Council would be expressing its preference for a hybrid station location generally located, now it says along 23rd Avenue, but we've now indicated a change to west of 23rd Avenue, straddling South 320th Street that would be consistent with an extension to Tacoma along I-5. And then the rest of the language in the resolution is the common language that we have.
I have a question. I don't know if you're able to answer it or if the Sound Transit folks are. When the Sound Transit Board makes their decision, and if it's something that is not what we are asking for, is there any way that that decision could be changed by the people?
I don't know if there's an appeal process or...
Yes, it's an environmental process, and there's always the opportunity to challenge the environmental process. So after the board makes its decision, if for some reason you didn't agree with it, you have the opportunity to take, through legal steps to challenge that decision.
Has that been done before?
It's very common that
Okay.
environmental documents that there's legal challenges to environmental documents for one reason or another. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Duclos.
May I ask, I'd like to ask a question,
Please.
just for a procedural question. Actually, if we adopted the proposed resolution that's in front of us, can we do that at this meeting, or do we send it to the full council meeting?
I think what I wanted to do, what I was hoping to do, and what I've communicated, is to give the public another opportunity at the council meeting to talk about this on the 19th. That would still give us the week leeway between the last meeting and when the public comment period expires. So we could send this to I guess by virtue of, I don't think there's a necessity for passing it on to the next agenda. I think it's going to be on that agenda no matter what.
Okay. Would this option be presented to the public at those meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Were there any more questions of our council? Okay. In regard to the individual comments in regard to I-5 alignment, one of the things I thought was very interesting, or that I thought was very important, is the deputy mayor and I have been attending meetings with our regional partners at Des Moines and Kent, SeaTac, Burien, and actually even at the last meeting that we were at, they had invited Highline College. And I think it was very instructive to listen to that, and there was a lot of discussion, and one of the things I think that I wanted to avoid in this recommendation to you for your full consideration is not necessarily, I think any alignment east of 99, that's really where the fork in the road occurs. And so if we say east of 99, we're saying it's an I-5 alignment, but we don't necessarily want to meddle in what's happening at that location. Does that make sense? Yeah. Or I see kind of where I'm going there. Councilmember Maloney?
Oh, were you finished? I am. Oh, okay, yeah, and actually that's what I was going to speak to, is I appreciate that you included in the ordinance that Highline has, they get to decide, or hopefully at least give their input, and we don't really meddle in that too much. It's up to them. But our aspect of it is covered, I think, succinctly, and probably the way I would prefer it to be as well. As far as Highline goes, though, I mean, it's important that the students can get to and from whenever possible. And so I just really appreciate that you had that in there for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any, what do we think about that hybrid plan? The idea to, I'm very interested, obviously, in bridging 320th, but the hybrid station location. Any thoughts on that? We want to think about it for a couple weeks? Okay. Okay. All right, before we adjourn this meeting, we've got a city council meeting in about 16, 17 minutes. Is there any other member of the public that would like to address the council about your preferred alignment? Going once? Again, we'd love to hear from you, either phone calls or emails, or come to the next city council meeting, or frankly, you could testify tonight if you'd like to. But our meeting will start in about 15, 16 minutes. So I believe at this time the special meeting of the Federal Way City Council is hereby adjourned. All right, we're in recess. Thank you for coming, everybody.